right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Laser Brains, the podcast that reviews all the science fiction movies. I'm your co-host, Mike L., and as always, I'm joined by
Joshua Mervell, and today we're going to be talking about the original Mad Max movie.
That's right, and as always, we're joined by Meteor co-owner Champ Ian.
That's me. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me on this podcast to talk about this classic film.
Sweet.
Thanks for having us here.
Awesome. Okay,
yeah.
So let's talk. I got to dedicate this podcast to my friend Jordan Krug, who got me into Mad Max. I might have seen clips when I was a kid, but he was the one that really introduced me to this and pushed it on me. I returned the favor by pushing Night Shift with Michael Keaton onto him.
You mean he didn't already know about Night Shift?
Can you fucking believe that? Exactly.
I struggle to believe it, but...
Oh, Jesus, Josh. Anyway, okay.
I don't know what that is.
Ian, what is your experience with
Night Shift?
No, with Night Shift. No, with Mad Max. With Mad Max. Before doing it for this podcast.
You know, I'm a latecomer to Mad Max.
Okay.
I didn't see the original Mad Max until we watched it here originally, which,
Wow.
full disclosure, was several months ago.
It was, I think, maybe a year ago.
Maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Long time ago. That was the first time I'd seen the original.
Okay.
My first exposure to Mad Max at all was seeing Fury Road in theaters.
Sweet.
So it was I feel as though I came about it backwards.
Sure.
But,
Which is fun. Many
yeah,
people did, I think.
Yeah. But
Yeah, same for me.
Okay.
I hadn't heard of it until Mad Max Fury Road. I didn't even realize it was a sequel to anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When did you find
not
out it
know.
was a sequel?
I don't know, much after seeing it,
Wow,
like
it's shocking.
months maybe
Because
after.
it's only shocking because I talked to my friend Kyle and we talk about how people go see Fury Road and they like it and then they don't read up on it.
Right. Yeah, it was a couple of months, I think, after that I realized it was more. And then I think I remember looking at this movie and realizing this isn't like Mad Max Fury Road, like really
Whoa,
at all.
okay. Not even a
little,
So I think
no.
I wasn't actually interested in going back to watch them. So my first time watching this was when we screened it here as well.
So, okay, there's a big story here. It all begins with Duran Duran. And no, I'm teasing, of course. But the influence of Road Warrior on American pop culture was gigantic in the 80s. And I came about it, like, you know how you said you came about it backwards? I think, did you say backwards? Or was that you?
Backwards, yeah.
I came about it sideways because I came in through Duran Duran, okay?
Right.
So Duran Duran...
So you weren't kidding about Duran Duran?
No, I was not. I'm never kidding about Duran Duran. They did a
Bold words from Mike L.
Clip
they
that.
did a music video for Wild Boys, and I believe maybe one of their other music videos. And then around the same time in the 80s, there was all these music videos coming out with all this post-apocalyptic imagery of people wearing like armor and crazy outfits and a mixture of futurism with barbarism. And then the wrestlers, there were wrestlers called the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, who were also called the Legion of Doom, who eventually went to the WWF in the 90s. There was other movies that came out that kind of imitated the style of the Road Warrior. Okay. But it doesn't start with Duran Duran. It actually starts with this movie, which is Mad Max 1. 1979, I think.
1979, yes.
Okay. So even if you've seen Road Warrior or Fury Road, when you go back to this one, it's a completely normal movie.
Yeah, it
Not
doesn't
completely.
even feel like a post-apocalyptic movie. Like, I didn't even think I realized it watching the movie. Like, nothing really about it is set in the future except for the fact that they say it's
A
set
few
in the
years
future.
from now or whatever the...
Well,
title
you know
card
how we
shows.
kind of refuse to do research on the show? I do vaguely remember at one when they let's just back up a little bit. So this film was directed and co-written, I believe, by George Miller, who was a former surgeon, and using his experience as a surgeon in Australia and seeing all these mutilated bodies
From like motorcycle accidents,
car accidents
mostly, yeah.
on these highways with miles of empty road. He got the idea to do this film, and it wasn't until they were already in production they were like, well, maybe we can just set it in the future, because it's like you said, there's nothing really that screams future. It's just a little bit vague.
I think I remember watching a documentary a little bit after we watched the movie here about a year ago, and I remember they were talking about the fact that the biggest reason it was set in the future is because they didn't want to use the Australian cop uniforms from the time because they thought they were too lame.
Oh, okay.
So they were like, well, let's give them like leather jackets and just set it in the future, which is great.
That's perfect.
A brilliant reason to set a movie in the future.
But only a few years, so you don't have to explain why there's no flying cars and why everything looks the same.
So I have a lot to say, but Ian, let's talk to us about Mad Max, the first one. This one. What's your general impression of it?
Well, it was a shock seeing it after basically cutting my teeth with Fury Road. Sure, it's the same sort of deal. Like Fury Road and the modern Mad Max films are very, very, very hell on earth, and taking this film to a crazy extreme. So to have it be this sort of like it almost like a grindhouse vibe of just like an action film, it surprised me. What am I watching here? I loved every minute of it, though. It is just such a great example of just practical effects. Everything being done on I don't know what the budget was like for this, but just seeing cars smash into other cars and just having that on full display. The movie's about things smashing into other things and people punching people and people shooting people and people screaming and people just, it's just horrible and amazing.
Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think this is one of those movies that is kind of like lightning in a bottle. The idea, the story is pretty good. Like the script is pretty strong. And then it's like everything fell into place, it seems like, with this movie, because all of the actors were doing a lot of their own stunts. And like, again, in that documentary, they were talking like every single one was like, yeah, I'm honestly shocked nobody died while we were making this movie, because they're actually doing all of these stunts, like all of these like crazy like car flips and the motorcycles sliding across the road. And when you see the people sliding across the road, that's really that like people. It's nuts. Yeah. So it's a very unique movie. I did really like it, but I think I do enjoy the vibe of like when it goes a little bit more.
With Road Warrior?
Yeah, it was Road Warrior.
Well, I do. You mentioned lightning in a bottle. I think George Miller captured lightning in a bottle 3 times. Mad Max 1 and Road Warrior, and then of course Witches of Eastwick. No, I'm kidding. And then of course Fury Road.
Happy Feet.
Yeah.
Babe Too Big in the City.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. No, like Fury Road was lightning in a bottle somehow again. Somehow this guy who's like 95 does Fury Road, and it's arguably better than the first 3 Mad Maxes.
It's unbelievable. It's
unbelievable what he did. Yeah. But just the fact that like everyone knows Road Warrior, but even this one, I think it's important to note that I don't think this story could have come out the way it did if it was written as a novel or as a comic book or as a play.
No, it's very visual.
It's very visual, and it's also like the experience of going, okay, I'm a surgeon and I've seen all these car accidents, and what else do I? It's almost like a Robert Rodriguez thing. What do I have? Okay, I've got Australia. I've got all these roads. I've got this.
I have this actress who knows how to play the saxophone. So.
Exactly. Yeah, right. And it's like I'm gonna put all these elements together, and also like the story's simple, but it's also good. So it's almost like a Western, right? Like you have a gang of hooligans that come into a town, terrorize the town, and then someone has to come and save the town. It's a very simple story, but it's very well done. And these bad guys are freaking scary.
Because they're crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not the sort of crazy that it's over the top just enough.
Right.
It's believable crazy.
Well, okay. So again, going off this documentary, they had to travel from like one city in Australia to another. I'm assuming Sydney to Melbourne or something like that. And it was cheaper for them to drive all of the motorcycles from one place to another rather than renting a truck to put them all on and ship them there for the shoot. So they had all of the actors that were playing the biker gangs. They actually got on the bikes and drove for a couple of days or whatever it was to get there. So
method acting.
Along the way, they were doing like method acting, and they were all like coming up with their own backstories for all of their like background goon characters.
Sounds like so much fun.
Yeah,
my God,
like a great time. So yeah, I think that again, some of the charm of it is that like that lightning in the bottle, the fact that they had to just do this because of budget restrictions or like, you know, like just they happened to have to travel from one city to another and had to go on a road trip together. Like it's so interesting.
Yes, the limitations of the budget, the parameters are partly what made it good, right? And the fact that, you know, again, when they're in the police headquarters, it's like a little bit weird looking, but still grounded in 1979. The house that they live in is 1979. But yeah, just like the cars are all of the time. Yep. But that one guy that designs that cool engine, that just amps it up just a little bit, a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But even the legit cars, I mean the paint jobs on these police interceptors, bonkers. But I love that too. Right. The fact that they say interceptor huge across the back.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like I think you said Grindhouse. To me it's like a comic book, like the heavy metal comics, the heavy metal comic book from like the 70s or 80s. Just this over the top, like these villains like Toe Cutter and like the other guy. Like it's just it's just slightly over the top. Yeah. And then like, you know, the grandmother with the big gun. Like all these characters are so freaking cool. Even like the police chief, who looks like Mr. Clean with like he's bald and he's a big mustache.
He always like never has a shirt on.
Yeah,
am I remembering that right?
He's like a wrestler. There's like WWF. Like I know it's ridiculous.
It's so funny. I feel like as we go on in the series, the bad guys are always like half naked with like leather and stuff. But in this one, it's like the cops and the good guys. That are
good point.
Like
good point.
That. It's kind of strange.
So
because when I saw that, I was like, is he a bad guy? Like, because he was like dressed up like...
Yeah, you're right.
Like the villains in all the other ones.
So here's the thing. These movies are interesting because it's like the first one has a lot of story. The second one is more action. Then Thunderdome has a lot of story. And then Fury Road is pure action, but it's arguably my favorite one. And then Furiosa has a lot of story, but I don't think it's almost like me and you, Ian, we talk about this, and I talked about how I liked Fury Road more because it was just straight on. Not to say being straight on action makes it good, but it was good despite having a thin plot.
Yeah, I didn't care for Fury Road. Or sorry, I didn't care for Fury Road the first time that I saw it.
Okay.
We watched it again here, and I really enjoyed it because I sort of shifted my thinking. But it almost has no plot at all. It's they want to find the Garden of Eden wherever they're going, so they all get in their convoy and they go over here, and over there they realize, oh wait a minute, we were already there the whole time,
and let's go back.
Yeah, but along the way, it's just this spectacle of the fact that it's all again practical effects blows my mind.
Yes,
and you know what I think Fury Road does really well is sidelines Max, the character. A little bit. Like he is kind of this background character, and we're seeing the story through Furiosa. And I think that in this movie, the weakest part is also Max. I think I think it's fine.
No, I don't
think you've angered him.
Yeah, no, I don't see that at all. No,
I don't know. I get it. He has a family and he's got a baby, but like I feel like.
You feel like those elements are tacked on a little bit? Like
I think...
Yeah. Like, I think the memorable good things about this movie is everything else.
No.
I think they could have replaced Mel Gibson with literally any schmuck and it would have been the exact same movie because the important things and the fun things are the other characters. Like, all he does is kind of be a little bit like
well,
stone
no,
face.
I'm
You know what I mean?
gonna kind of agree with you there, and I'm not disagreeing with you, and I'm not jumping in,
Yeah.
but I think you're right that he had the easiest time out of everybody on the cast.
Yeah.
Because he's just sort of the straight edge guy.
I definitely don't think he's I don't think he did a bad job.
No, I don't think so either. I think it was fine.
time.
The most interesting,
except for losing his partner and his wife and his kid. But other than that,
you see him looking at the beach, and then he just goes back to being in the car and kills everybody at the end. Like, that doesn't happen at the beginning of the movie, and he goes through this arc throughout the movie. They're killed at the end of the movie. He gets mad and then jumps into the car and chases after them and kills them. That's it. You know what I mean?
Well,
that's the end.
This movie, imagine, it's almost like this is Mad Max Begins. And it's like Road Warrior is the more famous movie, but this is the explanation of how he gets to that point. That's why
origin
I think
story.
This movie,
I disagree.
This movie actually has the best story because it transforms him from a normal person. It's almost like this movie transforms him from a normal person in a civilized world, and it transforms him into Mad Max.
He gets transformed though in like the last 20 minutes.
Yeah,
and it's over like a few seconds. That's like if.
No, but that's
It's not anywhere near the most interesting.
No, but hold on a second.
Batman Begins is a bad comparison because that would be like if if Bruce Wayne saw his parents get shot and killed, and he fell down the well and saw the bats in the last 20 minutes of the movie, and he's like, I think I'm going to be Batman now, and he puts on the cowl, and then he punches a couple people at the end of the movie, and then credits roll. Like it's
no, but hold on a second. It's actually pretty close because Bruce Wayne, his parents get killed. And then he's only 8 years old, so it takes the time before he can become an adult. But one of the ideas in the comic is that the moment his parents get killed, he begins the journey to being Batman.
Exactly. That happens at the beginning of the movie, and you see his journey.
You're not going to wait 25 years. Like, how are you supposed to wait?
You see the journey. That's what I'm saying. I think that the weakest part about this is that you don't see him like.
But I think that his partner got killed.
Sure, that's more interesting than.
And then here's the thing, let's be clear. His wife was dismembered and his baby was murdered. What else needs to happen for him to go crazy and then get revenge? Because let's be clear, the revenge thriller is an age-old genre in film and in fiction. And you only need one thing. It's like, like Punisher. My family was shot by the mafia. Bruce Wayne, my parents were killed. And then there's a bunch of other ones we're not going to talk about.
I think the point that Josh is making is that the movie doesn't spend enough time doing that.
Yeah.
There's all this movie, and then there's that part.
I think you have one shot of him being sad about his family. Like, he's sitting on the beach in that like lawn chair.
That's
he's
what
looking
you
at
think
the
it's
water.
more time of him being sad.
Or like getting to that point where he turns into Mad Max. The beginning of the movie,
but I'll tell you when
it's about the gangs.
I'll tell you when he becomes Mad Max. When he comes to the hospital and he sees his wife is a
sure.
What's it called when you have you're missing limbs?
You're an amputee?
Yeah. Well, when he sees his wife as an amputee and his baby's dead, that's it. He's now Mad Max. And to be fair, I think that's all it would take for me to be Mad Mike. You know what I mean? Like, if my wife was amputated and my baby was killed, I wouldn't need any time to contemplate. Should I be what do I need to do? I know, I'll kill the people that did it.
But it'd be fun to see him go crazy longer, and to stretch out the revenge.
I don't think you could say that this movie is about that, because it doesn't happen. Like, it's not about him going through and getting revenge. This movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's not this is not the origin story of Max and like how he got to this point, because that happens at the end of the movie and he just snaps.
More
and he kills
of this
them
movie
all,
is about Toe Cutter trying to avenge the Knight Rider.
Yep.
I think here's the thing. At the beginning of the movie, one of the first things that happens is his partner gets killed. By the way, we're spending way too much time on this one point.
I wouldn't say at the beginning of the movie, though.
Well, a third, maybe half. But his partner gets killed.
Close to.
And then, actually, no, sorry, I'm wrong. The first thing that happens is, I don't remember what Max, he deals with the first guy.
Right.
Which is actually, Toe Cutter's not the big boss. The guy that he toes up at the end is the other guy. Max deals with that guy, and then if you remember when they're coming to the scene of the crime and all the cops are around and like the sirens are going, the boss comes to Max and says, "Oh, just so you know, they're out to get you now." He basically says they're out to get you, and he's like, "Yeah, whatever." So that's like the first clue that like this is not going to be. This is not the old world. This is not the civilized world. The criminals know where you are. They're going to find you. They're going to kill you. Yeah, whatever. Then the partner goes out of his way to mouth off to these guys and blah, blah, blah. They come back and they find the partner. They kill him. And he's still, it's almost like it takes 3 steps for him to get to the point. It's not just the one thing. And I think it's 3. And if Jordan Krug was here, he would back me up. Anyway. Okay,
yeah, but he's not.
Yeah. So let's just talk. Okay, let's just move on to other points. There's more things to talk about this movie, right?
Sure.
Like the stunts. Let's talk about the stunts and the explosions.
It's nuts.
Okay, so Ian talked about how real it feels, right? And I think that's the key. If this was CGI, we would not be talking about the special effects 40 years later, or almost 40? Yeah, 40 years later. For example, when the guy's riding on the motorcycle and he falls off, and then the motorcycle hits him in the back of the head.
It's all real.
And it looks like it's breaking his freaking neck. And then you find out that it broke his neck. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, right?
Yeah.
If it was CGI, we wouldn't be talking about it.
No, because you'd be able to tell. And
I mean, God bless the people that sacrificed life and limb to make this movie. Because there was injuries. There was definitely injuries.
Sure. There had to have been. But you know what I love about some of these special effects, though, is that even though it's very brutal and very real and very dangerous, they still managed to throw some whimsy in there.
Sure.
Do you remember the scene where the car, there's a caravan, a trailer that's turning around, like somebody camping?
Yes.
It's towards the beginning of the film. And then I think it's a police cruiser just launches itself right through the trailer and everything explodes. For a split second, you can see like heads of lettuce on the roof of the car, on the hood of the car. So they plan this. You know what this shot needs? Some lettuce on the fucking car. And they have one shot at it.
Or every time like one of the bad guys is about to like run into something and explode, we get a crazy close-up shot of their eyeballs popping out of their skulls.
Weird.
It's like,
I know.
It's like the only like special like makeup effects kind of like a puppet. It's crazy. Like it literally pops out of their eyes and then explode, and it's like a second. Like it's so quick, like a fraction of a second. Honestly, it's so quick.
But it lends so much to the style of the entire franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely like a sense of humor that carried over to Fury Road. Like the greatest shot in the whole movie, Fury Road, when the guy is just, we hear the drums and we realize, oh, there's a guy playing those drums, and then we see the guy wailing on a guitar. Greatest shot in the whole movie, and that sense of humor is still here in this movie, like to some extent, right? Okay, so you know, it's funny because as far as the plot of the movie, there's a couple things that almost felt like they were cut out or were missing, because I've seen this movie a few times now. And one of the things I noticed was after, I don't remember the names of the guys, but when the bad guys are arrested, and then all of a sudden it cuts to them finding out that they can't hold them. And that's when the partner is like mouthing off to them and trying to like, you know, he's like, can't believe that they're letting these guys go. It feels like there's a missing scene there.
Oh, like in between them being arrested and
like it would have been
released.
nice to see something there. And there's maybe one other time in the movie where I feel like there's like a missing part. But I think, again, I kind of just appreciate that it's like a raw thing. Yeah. It's like flawed, but I appreciate it because it's flawed and it's not perfectly slick, right?
Yeah, the flaws give it character.
Right.
Because the flaws never really detract. Because you don't really need to know. Like, it's not a
you
plot
just figure
hole.
it out.
Like, they were arrested. Oh, they can't hold them. It doesn't really matter why. In another film, it might have mattered, but not in this one, because this is, again, it's a spectacle. This is what this is. This is a theme park ride. Other little things that I noticed that I would judge other films for, but I don't in this. There's a lot of camera speeding up.
Okay.
In order to try to make the motion seem faster.
Sure.
And doesn't really work on a technical level, but it gives the movie something. And I don't really get why it works for me because it shouldn't.
Sure.
But little things like early in the film, seeing the kid running down the road, and it's like he's running so fast that it's almost silly, but
sure.
It matches the rest of the action and the frenetic pace of everything.
I think because everything else feels so real too, with like the crashes and the stunts, that you can tell by knowing that they're like speeding up the footage, you can like, okay, this is real. Like it wasn't a special effect. It wasn't this like thing
it feels handmade kind of. Yeah.
And I think that because everything else is so handmade, it like lends to that. So
and it's not being used for comedic effect either, which is the other side of it.
Yeah.
It's still being played seriously.
Yeah. There's also there's also weird moments of like, again, this is George Miller's first film, but like cutting away to, there's one violent scene where it cuts away to like some birds. But they're not vultures. There's something else.
Crows.
And then later on, there's the vultures, I think. But it's like the only kind of abstract edits in the movie. And then there's also like I think it's after Mad Max becomes Mad Max. And he's like driving. And then there's like a weird sunset. And then it's night. And then it's day again. And it's just like they didn't have to do that. They could have done that, but it was just like a cool little effect, like to show how long he's been driving on this road. It's just cool, little things like that.
But also kind of like you can tell that it's George Martin's first film or George Miller's first film. And it's like, did he learn some of this stuff by watching people in film school? And like, I have to have something.
Right. It's like I have to explain how it was 2 days later or whatever. Yeah, exactly. I know. Okay, go ahead.
So some of the other things too, I really like. I kind of like going off of what you were saying with they were like speeding up the footage. They would speed up the footage and then they would cut to like a road sign that would spin around, which like normally would be kind of goofy and like cheesy, a Looney Tunes thing, right? But I don't know what it is.
Starfighter and the speed limit sign going like
this. There's something so like interesting and like it works so well in this movie, like seeing those like moments. I think too because it's so quick. Like they spins and then it cuts back to them. Like it's great. Yeah.
Again, not played for comedy.
Yeah. The editing is surprisingly good in this movie for his first movie. Maybe it's not the editor's first movie, but
I don't know.
It's a quick movie for sure.
Very fast paced.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Okay. We got to talk about the actors. Do you have your Wikipedia open on your phone there?
Let's see.
Well, let's talk about them in reverse order. Let's talk about the bad guys first.
Where do we start?
Toe Cutter.
I
thought he was awesome.
Let's see.
I thought he was very intimidating.
He is played by Hugh Keays-Byrne.
And he also came back.
Immortum Joe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Yeah.
he's the same actor.
Really?
Can you believe that?
I did not know that.
Like, so smart to do
Once
that,
you see
right?
the eyebrows, though, like you could tell.
Yes.
Yeah. But
now I have
actor.
to watch all these again just for that.
Like, great actor, great presence. Remember when he grabs the guy's face?
Yeah.
Like, ooh, get away from me, right?
yeah,
good.
he's got like the shotgun in the guy's mouth.
Yes,
and he's like holding his hair in the ocean. He's a great like physical. He has a great physical presence. Like he's intimidating.
Perfect.
And he's also not like a big guy.
No,
I don't like not like.
He's not played up as a big guy.
Not like jacked. Like he looks like an average kind of guy.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like
maybe just has a big head.
Big hair.
Big hair,
for
big
sure.
hair.
But he has this presence about him, and it's definitely
the
all
ice
to do with
cream.
his acting. Oh God,
that is so good because it's like the ice cream represents like innocence and childish, childlike whatever, and he just comes in and just get away.
You know what? Too like she smashes it in his face, and then he's like out of frame, and he like pops back up, and he's got ice cream all over his face, and like. Normally, you would kind of like it would be a little bit goofy and funny,
right?
But when he comes back up, I'm just like scared.
It's terrifying.
I know you're scared. That's the thing is,
when
you're watching her go through what she's going through, you are frightened for her life, because these guys just see you walking by and they just come. You're like, oh God, get that. And it also works because we see so much of these guys
being terrible to other people. Yeah,
and she doesn't know who they are, but we know who they are.
She's got all the confidence in the world, right? She's dating Max Rockatansky,
right?
He's gonna get the job done, but he's way the hell over there,
right?
Yeah.
So she's kind of needling him. I mean, she gets out, but leading up to it is like, no.
Oh, anyway.
Get in the car, drive away.
And you know what, too? Like, it happens later on. She's separated, right? And then she goes into the woods.
Yeah, that's the one part about the movie where I kind of roll my eyes a little bit, because this is pretty quickly on the heels of the ice cream.
I know. It's like,
she's like,
well, 20 guys want to kill me. I'm going to go to the beach by myself. Yeah, I know. It's a little bit weird.
Yeah, but the movie's got to happen.
Yes. It's also a weird, like, I'm not saying I would cut it, but it's a weird part in the movie because she goes by herself, and then there's like the neighbor that has the friend, the kind of simpleton guy who scares her. It's just a weird sequence, the way, like, she's on the beach and you see the motorcycles pull up, but then they don't come down, but then she sees them, but then she runs into the big guy.
Super weird. Yeah.
It's awkwardly.
It's a little bit confusing because doesn't the dog also die in the forest, right?
The dog. Yeah,
the
dog is tied up. Yes.
Which is strange because we don't see any of the like motorcycle gang in the forest.
We see the hint of them up on the ledge, the ridge or whatever it's called. Yeah. So we know that they're there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, two more bad guys to talk about, I believe. I don't know their names, but maybe we can see faces. But there's
okay, so there's Fifi. I do not see a face here.
Can you get like a picture? If you go to Google, go Mad Max 1 cast. The guy who plays the second in command, who's like, you know what I'm talking about?
Bubba Zanetti.
That guy with the blonde hair. The one who my dad thought was Simon Pegg. That guy. He is awesome. I think he's perfect for that role.
Oh my God.
Humorless, like you got to have different characters in your gang. I think he was perfect for what he was. And again, we should also point out, this is 1979. This is like just on the cusp of punk rock. So there's a little bit of influence there. You got a guy with dyed blonde hair like that. Like, that to me is punk right there. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah. Just to refresh my memory about this character, he was very stoic and
yes,
I think so.
And very serious. Yeah, he was menacing.
Yes.
In a completely different way.
And he kind of argued with Toe Cutter a little bit. Like, I think Toe Cutter ordered him to go back. He's like, so he's like not as afraid of Toe Cutter as everyone else is.
Yeah, but he's still deferred to him, which even though, and I think I'm not remembering it completely, but I think he's bigger than Toe Cutter as well.
Maybe, yeah.
Which I think gives a sense of this is how dangerous Toe Cutter is.
Right.
Because his second in command, who isn't a lackey like everyone else and is bigger than him, is still afraid of him.
Yep. Good point. Okay.
Who was the other guy?
Then the other guy was
it Johnny the Boy?
So technically, Toe Cutter is not the big bad. The big bad is
Knight Rider.
Is Knight Rider the
crazy? Knight Rider dies at the very beginning.
Yeah.
No. Who's the one that gets tied up at the end? For you
viewers, Johnny? No.
For you viewers out there, we refuse to do research, so we just make this up as we go. But the guy who got tied up at the end,
I thought it was this guy.
What's his name? Is that him?
Johnny the Boy.
Okay, let's just assume it's that's him, right?
Well, that's Max.
Okay, you know what? We're making
that's him. That's him. Okay.
So Johnny the Boy, I thought was perfect.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of in the middle. He seems innocent, so you kind of feel sorry for him. And the fact that at the very end, he's the one that Max, what's it called? Handcuffs to the car.
Mm-hmm. Gives him the hacksaw.
And even when he's doing it, you're like, oh, he even says, no. I don't even know these guys. Like, I have a mental illness or whatever he says. You almost feel sorry. There's a part of you that feels sorry for him.
Yeah.
But then you remember what happened to Max's wife and baby and partner, and you're like
5 minutes ago.
Yeah, 30 seconds ago in the movie, and then you agree with them, and then that's it. That's
your points.
But anyway, I thought it was great. I thought he was perfect.
Yeah, he was a fun little Weasley character.
Yes,
he's
that's
fun.
the key. Yeah, Weasley. He's like, I guess you could say, if you want to use a Joseph Campbellian term, he's almost like a trickster because he's switching. It's like he's funny, he's goofy, he's crazy, but he's also evil, right? So, what do you think, Ian?
The whole cast of ne'er-do-wells.
Yes.
The entire cast of these guys is just, I mean, you can't stop anywhere and say this person's like this person.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own personality.
Right.
Everyone is just a little bit different. And to learn this all kind of came about on this trip across the outback on motorcycles. Awesome. It is so awesome. It's so awesome. So many, like, they could have gone so easy with this and it still would have been a successful movie. But I'm so impressed with it. Just the nuance with all these essentially background characters.
Right. You're right. Yeah. 2 more actors we're going to talk about. The lead gal, I believe that's her.
Sure, yeah, that's
Joanne Samuel. Is that her?
Joanne Samuel.
Yeah, she looks like she could play saxophone.
Yeah. I thought she was perfect. I mean, she was kind of, I don't want to say neutral, but she played her role perfectly. She was the perfect wife. I don't know. I thought she was good. What did you think, Josh?
Yeah, I think that she does a great job. Not necessarily with like Mel Gibson or Max. Like their scenes are fine. Like I don't think she did terribly by any sense, but I think that where she really shines in the movie is when she is up against Toe Cutter.
Yeah, I could say that.
And like that fear, like playing that, like not like what you would see in a horror movie fear, like screaming, but like that like quiet sort of like fear of like the suspense of like what is this guy going to do to me, and like you can see the gears in her head kind of like thinking like how is she going to get out of this. So I think all of that she played brilliantly.
Nice hair too. Nice hairstyle.
Yeah.
I agree with all that. And you can kind of see how it shifts too. She's very, very confident with her first experiences with Toe Cutter, like with the ice cream. And he's very menacing, and he goes up to her with the ice cream cone, and she's just like,
yeah,
and then shoves it in his face and kicks him in the nuts before driving off. But as it goes on, she realizes that she can't underestimate this guy. She does a great job of selling it. And her chemistry with Mel Gibson is really good too. I bought that.
A good point. And again, we don't know because we refused to do research of how much was that rehearsed or planned, but they seem to be. And that's the thing is, like, if you're a fan of Road Warrior and Fury Road, you might think this movie's too slow, but I appreciate the fact that they just show them sitting at home, having breakfast and joking around, and they have the little sign language thing they do to each other. Like those little moments that they... I mean, maybe George Miller wrote them, or maybe they kind of just thought of them as they went. We don't know because we don't do research. But like, they help the movie, right?
It's cute.
Yeah, it's cute. It makes it feel like real people. And even like the relationship with the neighbor, the old lady that ends up bringing the gun. Yeah, like she feels like a real person, right?
Yeah, her, and she just kind of like comes out of nowhere,
right?
And she feels like a fun, good character in this movie. When they first take the baby and she runs up to the gang in like the barn area, it's I think the grandma is the one that shows up with the shotgun there too and saves the baby, and then they both take off in the car.
And it's funny because we have 5 Mad Max movies by George Miller, so you think of him being, well, he's a masculine action director, but the same guy did Happy Feet 1, Happy Feet 2, Babe Pig in the City, and The Witches of Eastwick, which I'm watching in the middle of watching right now. He's really good at writing women. He's really good at directing women. The characters played by Michelle Pfeiffer and Susan Sarandon are exquisitely written and directed. So he, from the get-go, he knew what he was doing here with mostly male characters, but also bringing in the wife and the neighbor, and the way that they're the ones that protect the baby and rescue the baby, right?
Right.
It's really well done.
It gives them something to do, which is rare in movies now, let alone in 1979.
Good point.
They could have easily just written her as a sex
Damsel in
object
yeah.
for Mel Gibson to
Well, I mean,
protect.
Yeah, he's so good at it that Furiosa got her own spin-off movie, right? Like he's she doesn't seem like a damsel in distress in this movie.
No.
Even though she is in distress.
She gets terrorized, but she fights back against Toe Cutter.
And it doesn't, because it feels realistic. It doesn't feel like just some helpless like stand-in for a human, like everything she's doing feels real. So
we have one more actor to talk about.
No idea who that could be.
And he's the guy who blames all the wars on Jews. His name is Mel Gibson. Okay. And I'm not just saying this because of what has come to light over the past few decades. I actually never liked Mel Gibson as an actor ever. From Lethal Weapon to whatever other movies he did in the 90s, I was never a huge fan. Now, watching these movies, I can forgive a lot of that, and I think he's better in these movies.
You forgive what?
Not the anti-Semitism. No. I can forgive the acting. I can some of his mannerisms I just never liked that much.
I can forgive the anti-Semitism, but I draw the line at bad acting.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck that. No, but I can forgive some of the mannerisms I don't like. But it's funny because you mentioned that you think Mad Max, the character, is the weakest thing about this movie. I'm not going to say Mel Gibson is the weakest part of this movie, but maybe he could be replaced by another actor. Maybe.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I also don't really love him in anything he's in. He's just playing like Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
This is maybe the only movie series he's not playing himself.
Sure.
Like this is the only one that feels like a character.
Okay.
But even then, again, I don't think he necessarily brings anything special here. I don't know.
I'm borderline. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think it's also because you came in backwards. I came in sideways.
Right.
So I came in with the Lethal Weapon Mel Gibson, not liking his mullet, and then seeing this movie. So it's like maybe if I would have saw this first, I would like Mel Gibson. What do you think, Ian?
Well, I've never really had an opinion on Mel Gibson personally. I mean, aside from his politics and his shut the fuck up about everything, please. I never want to hear your voice again. But as an actor, I mean, I was made to watch Braveheart by a girlfriend.
Oh, right? Not a fan.
Beyond that, not much.
Right.
I mean, Lethal Weapon, sure, but this, I don't know. He was just a guy, and that was fine. And there's nothing that I can point to here and say someone else would be better specifically for a specific reason, but he didn't bring too much personality to what he was doing, where every single one of the bad guys just oozed personality.
That's a good point.
It's mostly in comparison to everyone else in the film. Like, he was fine, he was serviceable, but everyone else knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point. But he was the one. But he's the one that became a star. That's a good question. Who would I cast? Is Billy Zane Australian? I don't know. Is he? Maybe.
Well, he's not Australian.
Who? Mel Gibson?
Mel Gibson?
Is, yeah.
He lives in Australia. I thought he was from the U.S.
He might have been born in the U.S., but he had an Australian accent in the 80s, and then he grew out of it.
Interesting.
So technically he's Australian. But maybe if you were to Google big Australian actors from the 80s, we could figure out.
Yahoo Serious?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
I feel like if we weren't going to do Australian, like an Aussie.
Can you Google
maybe
big Australian actors?
Yeah, sure.
Actually, okay. Who are the other Australian actors we can think
big
of?
Australian.
Sam Neill. I can't even think of any.
I don't know who's Australian. I don't know who's Australian.
I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know. So who could replace Mel Gibson
I feel
as Josh
like,
types
again,
this
he's
in?
not Australian, but I think Kurt Russell would have been really
course.
Great in this role.
Of course, there's not even a question. See, these are all newer.
What's his name's not new.
Yeah, what's his name? Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe.
Yeah,
but
he was too young.
There's this guy.
We don't know who that is. We have no idea, folks.
No.
But someone in Australia was probably better than Mel Gibson at this time, but he was the guy they picked.
Right.
They used him for 3 movies. Then they replaced him with Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy is a much better actor. As far as whether he was better for Mad Max is up to you to decide.
Well, he doesn't really do too much as Max.
Doesn't do that much as Max either. You're right. Maybe he's imitating Mel Gibson. I don't know.
It's possible.
Yeah,
it's possible.
it could be.
Yeah. Like
So-
a lot of the movie just seems to happen around Mr.
Max?
Rockatansky.
Yeah, you're right. So I guess that's it, unless Josh has anything to add with his...
Jeffrey Rush.
There you go, Jeffrey Rush, Mad Max. Okay.
We've just fixed Mad Max.
Yeah, we fixed it for you. So Mad Max, we're going to be reviewing more Mad Max, so be sure to tune in. Be sure to tune in every week for Laser Brains is kind of erratic, but every other week is Tape Crusaders. Every week at Meteor, we watch a movie. Tonight we watched Idiocracy. And then coming
Another
soon,
dystopian.
yeah. Good
Or
point.
is it?
Good point.
Well, it's certainly realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was actually one of the first dystopian films. I think it might have been one of the first.
Interesting.
Anyway, we'll talk about that when we talk about Road Warrior. That's coming your way soon. Be sure to join us every week at Meteor, which is in Windsor, Ontario. University Ave. What's the address?
138.
There you go.
138.
There you go. Check it out. Josh, where can you find these episodes?
Yeah, you can find all of our stuff over on our website at thecomicbooksyndicate.com. You can also find the video format versions on our YouTube channel, so check us out there. Let us know what you guys think about Mad Max and Mel Gibson.
Thank you, Ian, for having us every week.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll see you next time. Until that time.
Take 2. Cut.